My name is Sally Ray, and I'm so glad you're here. Sit right down, stay for a while, we'll see what will appear. We'll have song adventure, a thoughtful story too. I hope that when we finish, we all keep what is true. My name is Sally Ray. Come on in right this way. Well, this is a story about a little boy who tried so hard to be good. But he had one problem. He had a very loud voice. His voice was so loud that my loudest yell isn't as loud as his softest whisper. So at certain points in the story, I'm going to need your help. At certain points in the story, I'm going to need you to yell as loud as you possibly can. But right after you do, you have to be totally silent so we can see what happens next. Do you think you can do that? Okay, very good. This little boy, his mother, because of his loud voice, his mother named him Little Earache. And his mother, she wore super duper polyurethane triple reinforced foam ear coverings to protect her from the sound of his voice. But even though she was his mother, it was still almost more than she could bear. And every morning, she'd make his favorite breakfast of blueberry pancakes, and little Earache would come to the top of the stairs, and in his softest whisper, now when I count 3, I need you to yell, "Hi, Ma!" as loud as you can, but right after you do, we have to be totally silent. Do you think you can do that? So little Earache came to the top of the stairs. 1, 2, 3.
Hi, Ma!
Oh, when little Earache whispered like that, his mother flew up in the air, and the pancakes flew up in the air, and she said, "The pancakes are on the wall. The pancakes are on the wall. Or is it the ceiling? Is it the ceiling? I think I'm gonna fall." And a mile away in the barber shop, the barber's hand shook while he was giving a haircut to Miss Fairchild, the kindergarten teacher. "Oh, Miss Fairchild, I'm sorry." "Oh, that's okay. Little Earache's in my kindergarten class, and I flinch all the time." Poor little Earache. He loved to go to school. Every morning, off he went with his blueberry pancake sandwiches. But when he got to school, the other children were afraid to be friends with him. They couldn't wear super-duper polyurethane triple reinforced foam ear coverings, because if they did, they wouldn't hear Miss Fairchild. And Miss Fairchild couldn't wear super-duper polyurethane triple reinforced foam ear coverings, because if she did, she wouldn't hear the children. Well, little Earache had one friend. That's because she was hearing impaired. She was deaf. She couldn't hear little Earache's voice. The only sound she heard was she always heard the sound of ocean waves roaring and crashing. And because she always did, her mother named her Oceana. Now, Oceana had a way of talking with her hands. And the way she'd say her name was she'd make her hand like an O. You put your pointing finger and thumb together, and she'd put her hand rolling like the waves of the ocean, and that's Oceana. And the way she'd say little Earache is she'd put her hand flat like she's patting the head of a little child, and then she'd put her 2 pointing fingers near her ear twisting. That means earache. And the other thing she'd do is she'd say, "I love you" in sign language. And the way you do that is you bend your 2 middle fingers down and you have your thumb up. This is an L, and that means I love you. So Oceana would say, "Little Earache, I love you." And little Earache would say, "Oceana, I love you." Well, every day they played at recess, and one time, by mistake, when they were playing hide and seek, little Earache said, "I found you." When he whispered like that, the bricks in the school shook, and the children went all the way over on the swing. I don't know if you can say, "I found you" when I count 3, the way little Earache might have whispered. But remember, right after you do, we have to be totally quiet so we can see what happens next. 1, 2, 3.
I found you.
Oh, when little Earache whispered like that, as I said, the bricks in the building shook, and the children went all the way over on the swings. And that very night, the mayor called a meeting. "If you vote for me, I promise to get rid of little Earache." And they voted for him. That night, the mayor went to little Earache's house, and he said, "You're banished to the forest. You're leaving tomorrow after breakfast." Poor little Earache. He felt so bad, and his mother wanted to go with him, and she said, "Little Earache, please don't go. Little Earache, please don't go. If you have to go, I'll miss you so. Little Earache, please don't go. Don't go. Don't go." And Oceana said the same thing in sign language. But little Earache didn't want them to have to go to the forest. So he acted as brave and courageous, and he said, "Don't worry, I'll be fine. And when I get settled in the woods, I'll invite you to visit me." And he acted really brave. And he went off with his backpack full of blueberry pancake sandwiches. But when he got to the woods, it was dark, and there were scary shadows, and he wasn't as brave as he had pretended. He was really frightened, and he fell asleep under a tree. But when he woke up in the morning, the sun was shining, and he found somebody had placed a pillow under his head made out of feathers, and there was a blanket woven out of pine needles, and there was a bird and a squirrel and a lion, and they could talk, and they told him they were his friends and they would help him in the forest. And not only that, they knew what little Earache was thinking without him speaking. So because he didn't want to hurt their ears, he never spoke, and they always knew what he was thinking. They showed him where the water was so fresh and clean and unpolluted that you could drink it. And that's very rare, to find a stream where you could swim and also drink the water. Wow. One day, little Earache thought, that looks like a good mushroom to eat. And Lion said, "Oh, don't eat that. That's a toadstool." And then another time, little Earache thought, "I'll climb that tree." And Squirrel said, "Oh, be careful. On that side, you'll get a splinter." So they always knew how to help him, and they had such a wonderful time. But one day, Squirrel looked worried, and little Earache thought, "I wonder why you're worried." And Squirrel said, "Oh, we didn't want to have to tell you, but every year about this time, a terrible monster comes. He's the honey-dripping monster. He's covered with honey in the most terrible way." And little Earache was wondering, and they said, Lion and Bird and Squirrel said, "When the monster comes, we have to go to the deepest cave and hide. Last year, little deer stayed out so we wouldn't be eaten. Poor little deer, because the monster doesn't leave until he eats one of us." Well, little Earache felt a courage and a plan starting to grow. And before you know it, the monster was coming closer. You could hear footsteps in the distance. And Bird and Lion and Squirrel grabbed little Earache's hand and said, come on, we have to go to the caves and hide. But little Earache thought really strong. You go to the caves, cover your ears, and don't come out until I say. Come on, they were pulling him. Go to the deepest, darkest cave, he thought, and cover your ears. Well, Lion and Bird and Squirrel were frightened for little Earache, but they were frightened for themselves too. So off they went. And the monster came into view. He was green, gross, and grotesque, with an enormous beehive on top of his head, just oozing dirt and honey down the sides. And the bee stingers were sticking out of his cheeks, and the bees were stinging him right and left and right and left. But he didn't care. He was too gross to care. And little Earache knew that what the monster liked to do best was to rub a creature through the honey on the way to his mouth. Now, little Earache has always tried to be good. He's always tried to be quiet. But now, for the first time in his entire life, little Earache is going to speak as loud as he possibly can. So, I'm going to need your help in a second. The monster reached out this gross, puffy paw, just oozing slime and dirt and honey. And right before he grabbed little Earache, for the first time, is going to speak as loud as he possibly can. So when I count to 3, I need you to yell, "Hello, monster!" as loud as you can. But right after you do, we have to be totally silent so we can see what happens next. Do you think you can do that? I hope so. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Hello, monster!
Oh, I don't know if you've ever thrown a stone in water and seen rings spread out. But this sound was so loud that you could see rings in the air. Closer and closer they came to the monster's body until the tiniest bit of the monster changed. His very DNA changed until the monster became chocolate pudding with honey. And everywhere a bee stinger fell, a chocolate pudding bush grew, so you could never run out. Well, there was the statue of the monster, chocolate pudding with honey. And little Earache called for his friends to come out. But they were afraid. They thought little Earache had been eaten. Finally, they came out. And Squirrel said, "Oh, little Earache, you've saved us." And little Earache said, "Oh, that's nothing." And Lion said, "We didn't know you could talk. We didn't know you could talk. We didn't know you could talk." "Wow," said little Earache, "I guess now that I spoke as loud as I wanted to, I can talk in a normal tone of voice too." Wow. Do you think that was the only miracle that happened when little Earache spoke? No. What happened was stones and rocks came loose from the mountain. And these stones and rocks were called diamonds and rubies and emeralds. And some of them formed an enormous chair. And they sat little Earache in the chair, and with some of the smaller stones had made a little crown. And they crowned him King Little Earache. "You're our king," said Lion. "Oh, thank you," said little Earache. Well, when the mayor back in town heard, he said, "Oh, little Earache, now that you're cured of your problem, you can come back. And yeah, it wouldn't be safe for a little child like you to have all those diamonds and rubies and emeralds." Do you think little Earache went back? No, he stayed in the forest. And what he did was he made an enormous house all out of diamonds and rubies and emeralds just by the sound of his voice. He could add rooms on by the sound of his voice. And he invited his mother and Oceana and anyone who wanted to be his friend to come and live there with him. And whenever little Earache wanted to make more toys for them or to add rooms onto the house, he asked all his friends and mother to go to the cave, cover their ears, because he wouldn't want to turn his friends into chocolate pudding. And then little Earache went to the foot of the mountain and spoke as loud as he possibly can. Well, that's not the end of little Earache, but it is the end of this story. So when I count to 3, I need you to yell the end, but right after you do, we have to be totally silent so we can see what happens next, okay? 1, 2, 3.
The end.
Okay, now I'd like to do the little Earache dance with you, and I'll show you how it goes. Little Earache, oh, this is the thing. When I say raise them high, you're going to lift your arms up high. And when I say bend them low, you're going to bend down really low. And when I say twirl them around, you turn all the way around and come back to the front, okay? Little Earache was a wonderful child, but the people said, you're much too wild. Lift 'em high, bend 'em low, twirl all around, and away we go. Oh, the children in school would lean away. They just couldn't bear what he had to say. Lift 'em high, bend 'em low, twirl all around, and away we go. Oh, the mayor was mean, that's oh so true. He sent him away, and we cried boo-hoo. Lift 'em high, bend 'em low, twirl all around, and away we go. Oh, the monster tried to make them hurt. Little Earache gave him his just dessert. Lift 'em high, bend 'em low, twirl all around, and away we go. Oh, 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 oh. Chew. Well, my name is Sally Ray, and I'm so glad you came. Simply sad this visit, things won't be quite the same. We had song adventure, a thoughtful story too, and now we're almost finished. Let's all keep what is true. My name is Sally Ray. I hope I'll see you again someday. Thank you. Is there time for one more short song? Nope. Okay.